Oh my God, these things smell so good. I cannot wait to try these. Wonderful. I am really looking forward to this one because I'm hungry. I wanted to give a shout out to TARDIS Spider. Uh, he asked me in the chat today on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS if I had ever tried Konica sausage from Alabama, and I had never heard of that. I checked, and it seems to be something that we can't get in California. So tell me something we can't get in California, and that's going to motivate me to even try to find it more. So TARDIS Spider, thanks for that suggestion, and for that reason, this episode is using the TARDIS background again. Okay, so here's what I'm going to taste today. This is going to be the second in a three-part series where I'm trying Texas smoked sausages from the same company, same brand. This one right here is Rancher's Premium Smokehouse Philly Cheesesteak, beef and pork sausage. Now, this makes me wonder, is this Pennsylvania, Texas fusion? Because these come from Mesquite, Texas. And of course, the Philly cheesesteak was invented in southern Philadelphia in the 1930s, and we're going to get to that. Now, what is a Philly cheesesteak? I'm not going to go deeply into that, but there is a book about it called The Philadelphia Legacy, Pat's King Steaks. Or I'm sorry, Pat's King of Steaks, the original Pat's King of Steaks, and the birth of the steak sandwich. Now, if you will notice, that does not say cheesesteak. That is due to the fact that the original Philly cheesesteaks were only steak sandwiches. Now, these were started from a hot dog stand in, like I said, the 1930s. This photograph right here, that's not Pat. That's one of his descendants, and this photograph is from 1982, where he's standing on the roof, and I'm not quite sure why it's in black and white, because there were color cameras in 1982. Now, what is a Philly cheesesteak to me? Now, this is something that I do have extensive experience in because I did a food blog for 5 years where I tried over 50 of the top Philly cheesesteaks all around the United States, particularly on the East Coast. I never made it to Philadelphia. That's one of the cities that I've never been to before. But I have tried these in Chicago, Boston, Cape Cod, Kennebunkport, Maine, and then all the way down to Texas, where there are regional varieties. This one right here, you will see, has steak, onions, and cheese, which appears to be Cheese Whiz. Now, the original Philly cheesesteak by Pat in South Philadelphia was only meat and onions. When he was running his hot dog stand, the history says that he wanted something different, so he went to a local meat shop, an Italian meat shop, and got some sliced beef. And he was making a sandwich for himself on his hot dog grill with beef and onions. And a cab driver came by and asked, "What are you making?" And he said, "This is my lunch." And the cab driver said, "Make me one too." And from there, the cheesesteak sandwich was born in South Philadelphia, which was just beef and onions on a high quality hoagie. The bread is going to be extremely important, as it is with any sandwich. Now, this one right here is very easy to make. If you want to make a Philly cheesesteak, get you a nice quality hoagie or any type of bread, and just simply grill sliced beef and add the cheese of your choice. I do know that American cheese, which is technically not cheese, it's a processed cheese food product, that works extremely well because it melts well. Now, in looking at this picture closely, I believe that they have added mushrooms. That's a very common thing that were added later. Here's another example of a cheesesteak, which appears to be grilled onions and yellow American cheese melted with just sliced beef. Now, they've become more fancy, just as with any American food that has been tweaked over the decades and generations. This one right here shows one which appears to be slightly grilled onions with green and red bell peppers. And of course, you do have the cheese. And my God, that bread looks wonderful. And right here, this is a cheesesteak from Pat's itself. And as you can see, it has sliced beef, onions, and melted cheese. Now, with Pat's starting in the 1930s, one of the things that I did learn when doing my own personal cheesesteak history tour and tasting was that several places on the East Coast were convinced of and told me that Cheese Whiz was originally used for the first Philly cheesesteaks. Okay, there's a couple of problems with that. The Philly cheesesteak was not originally a cheesesteak, it was a steak sandwich with onions, dating back to the 1930s, and Cheese Whiz, now owned by Kraft, was not invented until 1941. So, moving on, here's another example of a Philly cheesesteak with grilled green and red bell peppers. And what is the best type of cheesesteak? Whatever you like. You can put anything on it. When I make them at home, I like to use just grilled onions and cheese, and that's it. Some of the time, mushrooms, but I will pan saute those in butter first. Now, to get to what I'm tasting today, this is Rancher's Premium Smokehouse Philly Cheesesteak Beef and Pork Smoked Sausage. Let's take a look at the back of the package here. Now, it contains pork primarily and beef, and then, of course, pasteurized processed cheddar cheese. I call that American cheese. And one thing, now, it does have green bell peppers. Let's take a look at the ingredients here. Okay, it has the cheese mentioned, water, cream, sodium phosphates, salt, vegetable color, annatto, and paprika extract. Annatto is what makes American cheddar cheese orange. Anti-caking agents, potato starch, powdered cellulose, water, salt, non-fat dry milk, dried red bell pepper, dried green bell pepper, black pepper, dried onion, curing powder, which contains salt, sodium nitrite, 6.25%, FD&C red number 3 for color, also, in addition to the annatto and the paprika. And then finally, natural flavor, which means nothing. And it says distributed by Dickey's Retail Company in Mesquite, Texas. Now, when I did a previous video on a different type of this sausage, bacon and cheddar, someone in the comments had already reviewed that sausage before, and they let me know that this sausage was tied in with Dickey's Barbecue Pit. Dickey's Barbecue Pit started in 1941 in Texas, and I would say in the early aughts it started spreading out into a really large chain that became national. Now, I know a few of them do still exist, but I know a lot of them went out of business. Now, down in Texas, Texans are very critical of their barbecue, and there was a term for Dickey's Barbecue Pit in Texas where it was being called the McDonald's of barbecue. Now, I have never had a problem with Dickey's. I've never received anything bad from there. I've enjoyed eating there because it was fast and easy. There were a few controversial things, such as this. If you look at the interior of these chains, you will see all of the wood which is on display, thus implying that they were wood smoking the meats there at the location. Problem with that. There was no smoke coming out of any of the locations, nor would many of the strip centers that they were located even have been able to allow something like that to have barbecue smoke pumping out constantly. So there are theories that the meats were pre-smoked and shipped. And I'm going to get to that in a later video because it ties in with something that might be very controversial in relation to Texas barbecue. I'm not going to be accusational, but I'm going to give you a hint as to what is coming up about that story. Here's a typical plate at Dickey's Barbecue Pit. At the top there, you will see deep fried okra, which is a Texas staple of barbecue. You will see chopped brisket. Below that is a smoked jalapeno and cheese sausage. The 2-ounce serving cup is their barbecue sauce. Then you will see their beans. To the lower left are ribs. Then, of course, a biscuit. Those were excellent. I believe that may have been honey butter. And then, of course, good old-fashioned American mac and cheese, and that was good. Okay, here's another example. To the upper left is what's called Texas toast, which would have been treated with butter and garlic. And then, of course, beans as well, mac and cheese. Down to the lower bottom, you're going to see pulled pork. And then to the right, the same jalapeno cheese smoked sausage. And I loved those as well. And then, of course, sliced white onions with where Chef Rick Bayless of Frontera Grill in Chicago started a controversy saying that nothing but white onions should be used in Mexican food, which was kind of funny. And then, of course, just standard issue dill pickles. Now, here is another example of food from Dickey's. You will see a cup full of beans, a cup full of green beans, and then, of course, coleslaw. And to the bottom, more of those biscuits, more white onions. The one to the bottom, cutely shaped like a heart, more dill pickles, and then, of course, chopped brisket. And then, at some point, when Dickey's kind of started to disappear, they were offering free delivery. Now, this picture here shows the chopped beef up at the top, or I'm sorry, the chopped pork at the top left. Below that, the sliced chicken breast, which was also excellent. And then, of course, those same jalapeno and cheese smoked sausages, white onions, and pickles. And then in the condiment containers, you'll see beans, coleslaw. I'm not sure what the green one is at the top. That almost looks like cheese spinach. And then, of course, potato salad, which they did have. Now, I want you to take a look at two of these pictures here. See where it says no BS? Okay, we all know what BS means. And in Texas, they don't have a problem with shouting out the full words. Now, if you look at the small print below that, that says no bad stuff. Now, here's another example of that in the later advertising, which included free delivery, which also says no BS. And finally, another example of a couple of plates of Dickey's. And then, of course, at the top, you have the coleslaw, the beans in the condiment containers. And then you have the chopped brisket. And then the jalapeno and cheddar smoked sausage. Below that, at the top left of the lower tray is the sliced chicken breast. Below that, the sliced brisket. Oh, that was the succulent meat candy. And then, of course, green beans with bacon. Mac and cheese again, where you can see that no BS again right there on that mac and cheese container. And, of course, biscuits. Now, Texans like a story with their barbecue, and they like it to be true. Okay? I'm going to go into that more, and here is a hint. You see this picture right here? That's a big problem. And when I realized what that picture is, it actually upset me. And I'm going to explain why in the next video, where I bookend this series by tasting the burnt ends. That picture right there is on Walmart.com right now. And I'll tell you what, that ain't Dickey's barbecue pit. Unless somebody had permission to use that, and unless they have a tie with where that barbecue pit is located, something is wrong, seriously wrong, and I'm going to expose it. But I need to check first. I know exactly where that barbecue pit is because I've been there. I've got pictures of myself and my family standing in front of it, and it's one of the most famous and treasured barbecue experiences in the state of Texas, which I myself and my family also have a lot of experience at in touring barbecue locations. And I hope to God that somebody did not do what I am thinking. And I bet if this came down to it, somebody would point fingers, such as saying, oh, Walmart put that on there without our permission. And I could see Walmart saying, oh, no, that's what the vendor provided us. I could see finger pointing because that picture is a huge problem unless Dickey's is related to that location. And I will reveal that in the next video, but I don't want to be finger pointing. and I want to find out the truth first. Now, here's the type that I previously tasted. Rancher's Premium Smokehouse, smoked bacon cheddar, pork and beef, smoked sausage. I was happy with those. This is what I'm going to be trying next, which will be the final in this series of this brand of Ranchers, which is called Brisket Burnt Ends in a Sausage. Very much looking forward to that. If you've never heard of burnt ends, oh boy, I love burnt ends. Okay, and here's what I'm tasting today. Now, here's how I prepared them. I used a steel skillet, not an iron skillet. And as you can see, this skillet is well seasoned. This is right when I turned on the gas. And that's what these looked like out of the package. There are 4 that come in the 12-ounce package, and I just did 2 of them because according to the ingredients, they're awfully high in sodium, and I'm not going to eat more than 2 of these today because I don't need nearly 2,000 milligrams of sodium. Now, a lot of the time, I will take and slice a sausage in half and grill it face down in the style of Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington, D.C. I know that they were doing that at some time, and I believe that they will do it as requested. I believe that's also how Bill Cosby liked his hot dogs done at Ben's Chili Bowl in Washington, D.C. But for the fact that I suspected these would have chunks of cheese inside them, I decided not to do that as not to burn the cheese. And here's how they came out in the end, which I'm happy with. I was able to get a nice char on the outside. And before I taste these, I want to once again mention that Philly cheesesteak sandwiches and cheesesteak sandwiches, which were the predecessor of the Philly cheesesteaks circa 1930s, did not contain pork. These do, and I was able to caramelize the skin well due to the high. Okay, that's what they looked like when grilling, and wow, I'm surprised that I did not set off the smoke detector. So let's go ahead and give these a shot. Let's see what they taste like. Here's what one looks like. A Philly cheesesteak pork and beef sausage from Mesquite, Texas. Bell pepper and American cheese are primary, and this has a really nice high fat level due to the use of pork as well, and it has a nice smoke. Now, the package does not say what type of wood this was smoked with. Coming from Mesquite, Texas, people may assume it was mesquite. Well, the most popular type of wood used in the Houston and the East Texas area for low and slow smoked barbecue is called post oak. So I wouldn't just assume that these are smoked with mesquite just because they come from a small town of the same name, Mesquite. But at first taste, I do like these. Mm, very unique. Okay, so let me try to rate these. I've never had a Philly cheesesteak smoked sausage before that I remember, so I can't compare these to something else. So as far as it being unique, I'll give that a 10/10. It's definitely a unique food. It's easy to find. It's available at Walmart all over America. You can run down there and buy these right now. Um, as far as barbecue, the smoke flavor is absolutely present. It's even on the lips. Now, with a premium quality Texas smoked barbecue, that is not just a one time thing where you sit down and eat it. is an experience that lasts for hours, even after you leave, because you can still taste the smoke if it's been done right, low and slow. And if you're in a barbecue place that is smoking right there, where they're actually smoking on wood, then your clothing is going to smell like smoke until you wash what you were wearing. So it's a full-on blown experience. Um, but as far as making this in your kitchen to get a taste of Texas as a fusion with a Philadelphia steak sandwich and then further a Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwich, I would say these are a winner. And I would suggest them, and I would buy these again. In fact, I want another bite of these. You want to heat them to over 140 internally. They're already cooked. Try to heat them fast to get a sear, where you can try to get a char like this. Get that skin almost burnt. Wow, these rock. Okay, so overall, I'm going to give these a 10-10. Now, when I get to the burnt ends, I hope to God and I pray that I get the correct answer, that somebody had permission to put this picture of that cherished, hallowed barbecue pit on Walmart. Somebody better have an explanation for that, because I know exactly where that is. And whoever put that on there, they know too. Okay? Here's a hint. It's in Driftwood, Texas. Okay? And I will reveal exactly where that picture came from on the next and final of this 3-part series of tasting Texas barbecued sausages in California. Until next time, enjoy your food tastings and peace out from California. Bye-bye.